Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought, man, so I should have said something? You stood there face to face with a rude, arrogant person, loudmouth person who looked you in the eye and tried to you down, and maybe you froze, maybe you stayed quiet. Maybe you let it slide to keep the peace, but deep inside, you were boiling. You wanted to say something that would shut them down. Something so sharp and calm that they'd regret ever opening their mouth to disrespect you. This speech right here, that's what it's about. Because the truth is, disrespect doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it's from coworkers, family, strangers, even so-called friends. And when it hits, it can feel like a punch to the gut. But let me tell you something powerful. You don't fight disrespect with disrespect. You fight it with confidence, with class, with words that hit harder than anger ever could. You don't have to yell. You don't have to curse. You don't even have to raise your voice. All you need is the right thing to say. And when you say it with calm power, you win. You walk away with your pride, your peace, and the last word without even trying to clap back. And best believe they feel it. So stay with me, because I'm about to hand you the exact mindset and the exact words that will leave any disrespectful person speechless. Not just to defend yourself, but to make them regret ever coming for you in the first place. Let's get into it. When someone disrespects you, the first instinct is often to retaliate, whether it's with anger, sarcasm, or even trying to one-up them. You might feel your blood boiling, your heart racing, and all you want to do is stand your ground and give them a piece of your mind. But here's the thing. Responding with anger only gives them the power. When you react in frustration, you're not controlling the situation, they are. Your anger takes over and you lose your calm. Here's where the power of silence and calm confidence comes into play. Don't respond with anger. Respond with power. What does this mean? It means you stay in control of your emotions, your actions, and your response. Anger makes you unpredictable. Power, on the other hand, makes you precise and unshakable. It makes your words hit with impact, not emotion. Think about it. When someone is rude to you, they want to get under your skin. They want to provoke a reaction. It's easy to get pulled into the drama, to feel that surge of anger and fight back. But responding in that reacting gives them exactly what they wanted. They now know they have control over your emotions. They have triggered you, and that's a victory for them. So, what do you do instead? You stop. You breathe. You take a step back. You let the moment settle before you say anything. Because the moment you let your anger rule your response, you lose. You stop thinking clearly. You're no longer making a choice. You're simply reacting. And reactions can be dangerous. You end up saying things you'll regret, and you might damage a relationship, reputation, or opportunity. This is where power comes into play. Power is the ability to choose your response, and to respond thoughtfully, not emotionally. It means recognizing that the rude person's actions don't define you. You have the strength to stay calm and choose not to stoop to their level. This is about control. Control over your emotions, control over your words, and control over your energy. When you respond with power, you make them feel it without ever losing your cool. You show them that you are unbothered, confident, and unshakable. You refuse to let their words affect your peace. You show them that you know your worth and that their disrespect doesn't touch you. When you choose power over anger, you keep your dignity intact and you let them see that you can't be rattled by their smallness. Let's break this down. Think about the last time someone disrespected you. Maybe it was a rude comment at work. Maybe it was a family member undermining your choices. Maybe it was a friend who was dismissive or mean. what did you want to do in that moment? You probably wanted to fire back with something cutting, percent, something that would make them feel as bad as they made you feel. But ask yourself, would that have made you feel better in the long run? Percent. When we lash out, it's a temporary relief. It feels good to put someone in their place in the moment. But afterward, the satisfaction wears off, the anger still lingers, the conflict still sits there unresolved, percent, and you're left with the emotional fallout of that confrontation. But when you choose to remain calm, cent, when you choose power instead of anger, you walk away with your dignity, your peace, and your respect. And that's something no one can take from you. Remember, power is silent. It doesn't need to shout or prove itself. Cent power doesn't need to argue to be understood. It speaks clearly in its stillness, percent. You don't need to make noise to show that you're in control. You just need to be in control, percent. When someone is rude to you and you respond with a calm, assertive confidence, you make them uncomfortable. Percent, you show them that their behavior doesn't affect you, and you win, percent. Think about how many people let their anger control their responses and end up looking foolish, emotional, or out of control. Now, percent, imagine how different things could be if you stayed calm, kept your composure, and let your silence be your response. Percent, your ability to not react is one of the most powerful tools you have. And when you respond with calm confidence instead of anger, percent, you take back the power and you leave them wondering why they couldn't get under your skin. Percent, this isn't about being passive or letting people walk all over you. It's about responding with strength, not with emotion. Percent, it's about setting boundaries without raising your voice, about standing your ground without getting into a shouting match. Percent, respond with power and make them regret ever disrespecting you. When someone disrespects you, percent, the first impulse is often to react in the same way, to hit back with something equally sharp or hurtful. But instead of fueling the fire, what if you took a different route? What if instead of letting their words strike you down, percent, you responded in a way that completely changes the game? This is where the power of saying, percent, I don't accept disrespect, even from people who don't respect themselves, comes into play. Think about it, percent. That one line is a game changer. It doesn't just defend you, it flips the script and shines a light on the person who disrespected you. Percent, you see, when someone is rude to you, they're often revealing their own insecurities, their own inability to communicate with respect. By acknowledging that you don't accept disrespect, not just from them, percent, but from anyone, you make it clear that their behavior isn't a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them. Here's the power in that, percent. When you tell someone you don't accept disrespect, you're not arguing with them, percent. You're not stooping to their level or lowering yourself to their petty actions. Instead, you're letting them know, calmly and firmly, said that their behavior is beneath you. By doing this, percent, you remind them that disrespect says more about their lack of self-respect than it does about your worth. Percent, it's easy to let someone's words make us feel small or unimportant. We internalize their insults, their rude remarks, percent, and we let them define how we feel about ourselves in that moment. But here's the thing. How they treat you has nothing to do with who you are. It has everything to do with who they are. Percent. People who disrespect others often do so because they feel small, threatened, or insecure. Percent. They project their own frustrations and weaknesses onto others because it gives them a temporary feeling of power. Percent. But the moment you call them out with that line, I don't accept disrespect, you take the power back. Percent. You make them reflect on their actions. You turn the tables without ever raising your voice, without ever getting defensive. Now, percent, imagine saying this line with confidence, not anger. Picture yourself standing tall, looking that person in the eye, percent, and delivering this statement. That is power. When you respond in this way, you don't engage in their drama, percent. You don't match their low energy or petty behavior. Instead, you hold yourself to a higher standard, percent, showing that you are not willing to stoop to their level. Here's where it gets even more powerful when you say, percent, I don't accept disrespect. Even from people who don't respect themselves. You're not just addressing the disrespect in that moment. Percent, you're setting a boundary. You're showing that your self-worth is not negotiable. Percent, this is the moment when they realize they can't just say anything to you and get away with it. Percent, it's important to understand that when people disrespect you, they often do it to see how you'll react. Percent, they might think that if they can get under your skin, they can manipulate you, control you, or even make you feel inferior. Percent, but when you make it clear that disrespect won't be tolerated, you establish a boundary that demands respect. Percent, you're letting them know that their attempt to break you down won't work. And this makes them uncomfortable. Percent, they have to confront their own actions, and the discomfort they feel is often the first step in them realizing their mistake. Percent, what's incredible about this statement is that it disarms them without a fight. You're not angry, you're not defensive. 40%, you're simply stating a fact about who you are and how you expect to be treated. Percent, you're not demanding respect through aggression or force. Percent, you're commanding respect by showing that you have the self-respect to walk away from anyone who tries to diminish you. Percent, this is the ultimate way to take the power back without lifting a finger. Let's take a deeper look at the psychology of it. When you say, percent, I don't accept disrespect, you're stepping into a space of emotional maturity. You are showing that you are bigger than the moment, percent, bigger than their words, and bigger than the situation itself. You show them that they have no power over you, percent, and they start to realize that disrespect is a reflection of their own weakness. It's no longer about you defending yourself, percent. It's about them recognizing that their behavior doesn't faze you. In fact, it only exposes them for the weak person they truly are. Percent, this is why that line, I don't accept disrespect even from people who don't respect themselves, is so powerful. Percent, it not only deflects the attack, but also places the focus right where it belongs on them. Percent, it challenges their sense of worth and forces them to reckon with their actions. And in the process, you become unshakable. Percent, when you speak with this level of certainty, it's impossible for them to keep disrespecting you. They know that if they continue, they're only showing more of who they really are, and they begin to regret their own behavior. Percent, the key is to never lose sight of your own worth and never allow someone else's disrespect to make you feel less than. Instead, 40%, use it as an opportunity to elevate yourself. The next time someone disrespects you, percent, remind them and yourself that disrespect is a reflection of their insecurity, not your value. When someone disrespects you, percent, the first thing that comes to mind is usually a desire to stand your ground and show them that their words or actions won't affect you. Percent, it's natural to want to defend yourself, to assert your position. But here's the thing, what if, instead of launching into a defensive argument or escalating the situation, you simply ask them, is that the best you've got? Now, this might sound simple, even a little cheeky, but it's incredibly powerful. Asking someone, is that the best you've got, shifts the dynamic of the conversation immediately. Percent, it takes away their power to control your emotions and puts the focus back on them. Percent, the reason this works so well is that it immediately challenges the disrespectful behavior without needing to match it with aggression. Percent, it forces them to confront their own actions without you even needing to raise your voice or get into a shouting match. Think about it, T%. When someone tries to insult you, belittle you, or throw shade your way, they expect a reaction. They want to see if they can get under your skin. They want to provoke you into a fight or make you feel less than. But when you ask, As at the best you've got, you flip the script. You're no longer reacting to them. Instead, you're turning their insult into a question. You're letting them know, without a doubt, that their attempt to hurt you is falling flat. It's a response that challenges the very foundation of their behavior. By asking them if that's the best they can do, you expose the weakness in their attack. You're subtly pointing out that their words are ineffective, that they're not having the impact they think they're having. It forces them to question the quality of their own actions. Are they really making a good point? Are their words truly sharp? Or are they just grasping at straws to get a rise out of you? Now, this approach doesn't require you to raise your voice or even show anger. In fact, the best part about this response is how calm and confident it sounds when you say it. The confidence behind this question is what makes it so powerful. It's not an angry jab or a defensive response. It's a confident, almost dismissive inquiry into the strength of their insult. When you ask, as at the best you've got, you're implying that if that's all they can come up with, you're not impressed, and you're certainly not bothered. And let me tell you something. The moment you ask that question, it completely shifts the power dynamics. Instead of being the one who's reacting emotionally, you're now in control of the situation. You're showing them that their behavior doesn't faze you. You're showing them that you can't be intimidated or provoked by their words. It's almost as if you're telling them, you can try all you want, but I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of seeing me lose my cool. This alone is enough to make them rethink their approach and often back off. But there's more to it than that. By responding with, as at the best you've got, you also create a moment of discomfort for them. You've caught them off guard. They expected you to either lash out or retreat, but instead, you gave them nothing to work with but their own words. Now they're left with the realization that their disrespectful actions are not having the intended effect. They may even start second guessing whether what they said was really worth it. And in that moment, you have won, not because you fought back, but because you didn't let them dictate how you should feel. You kept your dignity and left them questioning their own actions. What's fascinating about this is that, for the person who disrespected you, this line often becomes a moment of self-reflection. They start wondering if what they said was really the best they could do. They might even realize that their words were hollow, 40%, and that they've wasted their time and energy on someone who's simply not affected by their negativity. So this is why is that the best you've got is such a powerful tool in the face of disrespect. It's not about confronting the person head on or getting into a back and forth argument. It's about removing yourself from the emotional storm and forcing them to deal with the fact that their attempt to provoke you is falling flat. It shows them that you are unshaken, unbothered, and in complete control. It's a subtle but undeniable way to make them regret ever disrespecting you in the first place. In the end, the person who disrespects you is the one who ends up exposed, not you. By asking that simple question, you reveal that their attack has no power over you. You take away their control over the situation. You deflect their insult with a question that makes them feel small, weak, and foolish. And most importantly, you show that you're stronger than their disrespect, leaving them to rethink their behavior and regret ever crossing you in the first place. When someone disrespects you, it can feel like an immediate attack on your dignity, your worth, and your self-respect. It's a natural reaction to feel offended, to want to fight back or to stand up for yourself, But here's the secret to turning the tables and leaving them thinking twice about how they treat you. Instead of defending yourself, you ask, What makes you think you have the right to talk to me like that? This question is not about confrontation, it's about control. So it's a powerful way to shift the focus from your own emotional response to the person's lack of respect for you in the first place. By simply asking them this question, you turn the tables. You stop focusing on defending your actions or justifying yourself, and instead, make them face the reality of their behavior. You're no longer a target of their disrespect. You're making them the focus of your attention, forcing them to reckon with the audacity of their actions. Think about the psychology behind it. When someone disrespects you, they usually feel a sense of superiority or entitlement, 40%, as if they have the right to belittle or insult you without any consequences. But when you challenge them with, what makes you think you have the right to talk to me like that? You are directly questioning their sense of entitlement. You make them stop and think, even if just for a moment, about what they just did and whether it was really justified. Most disrespectful people thrive on getting away with their behavior without anyone calling them out. They say hurtful things or belittle others because they've gotten used to the idea that they can get away with it. They believe they have a right to speak to others any way they want because nobody challenges them. But when you challenge them, you're forcing them to realize that they don't have the right to disrespect you or anyone else for that matter. What's incredibly powerful about this approach is that it doesn't require you to get angry, defensive, or emotional. It's not about shouting or raising your voice. Instead, you're simply pointing out the very flaw in their behavior. They think they can disrespect you without consequences. When you calmly ask, what makes you think you have the right to talk to me like that? You're showing them that their actions are unacceptable. And you're putting the responsibility of answering that question on them. This approach shifts the power dynamic entirely. It's a reminder that you don't need to get defensive when someone disrespects you. You don't need to prove your worth or make excuses for yourself. Instead, you make them examine their own actions. By asking this question, you disarm them with the truth. Another reason this question is so effective is that it forces the person to pause. They may not have expected to be called out, especially if they were acting out of habit or because they were trying to assert dominance. Most people who are disrespectful do so impulsively without considering the impact of their words. But when you hit them with a calm, direct question that challenges the legitimacy of their behavior, they suddenly have to reflect. For a moment, they're forced to confront their own entitlement and the consequences of their actions. Here's the key: by asking them this question, 40%, you're not letting them control the situation anymore. You're taking back the power and shifting the focus onto their actions. In doing so, you're preventing them from manipulating the narrative. They can no longer put the responsibility on you for getting upset or hurt. Instead, they have to face the fact that they've crossed a line, and you've made it clear that they've done so without any right. You also have to realize that this question does more than just make them uncomfortable. It challenges the behavior itself. It's easy to insult someone and move on, assuming there will be no fallout. But when you ask, what makes you think you have the right to talk to me like that? You force them to acknowledge the impact of their words. It shifts the conversation from a place of attack to one of accountability. Instead of feeling like they're getting away with their actions, they now have to reckon with the idea that they've stepped over a boundary. People who are disrespectful often look for weakness. They want to see if you'll back down or let them off the hook. But when you respond with a question that forces them to confront their behavior, you make them feel small. Percent. It's a quiet but powerful way of asserting that disrespect will not be tolerated. Percent. And it shows them that you are in control of how you are treated. When you ask this question, you take away their power to belittle you. You make them feel the discomfort of their own actions. In the end, percent, it's not about getting into a back and forth argument with someone who disrespects you. It's about setting a boundary that says, percent, you can't talk to me like that, and you need to understand that. The moment you ask, percent, what makes you think you have the right to talk to me like that? You stop the cycle of disrespect and force them to confront their behavior. Percent, you remind them that disrespect isn't a free pass, and that's when they start to regret treating you that way in the first place. Percent, by maintaining your composure, asking this simple yet powerful question, you take control of the situation without ever raising your voice. So you give them a chance to reflect on their actions, and in doing so, you create a space where your self-respect is never in question. Assert. You win because you stay calm, assertive, and unapologetically confident. Percent. Making it clear that you will never accept being treated with disrespect. When someone disrespects you, percent, it's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment, wanting to defend your honor or set the record straight. But sometimes, percent, the most powerful response comes not from a defensive argument, but from a quiet, assertive statement that shifts the entire tone of the interaction. One of the most effective ways to respond to disrespect is by saying, percent, I'm not the one for you to play with. This phrase isn't about aggression, but about establishing clear boundaries. Percent, it's a powerful way to tell someone that their disrespectful behavior is not acceptable, percent, without engaging in a verbal battle or lowering yourself to their level. Percent, instead of letting their words define you or react in a way that would escalate the situation. Percent, you calmly state that you will not tolerate being disrespected and that they have crossed a line they should not have crossed. Percent, it's a boundary statement, plain and simple. Percent, but it carries an incredible weight because it signals to the person that you are someone not to be toyed with. Imagine the scenario. Percent, someone makes a rude comment or insults you. In many cases, our initial response is to either bite back or retreat in silence. But when you say, I'm not the one for you to play with, you're putting them on notice. Percent, you're telling them that their actions will not be tolerated, and that they can't treat you however they please without facing consequences. It's not an outburst or a petty insult. It's a calm, percent, confident declaration of your self-worth. The beauty of this statement is that it doesn't require you to lose your temper, percent, raise your voice, or engage in a back and forth argument. Percent, it's a statement that shows you are in control of the situation and that you won't be disrespected without consequence. Percent, what makes this line so effective is its clarity. It doesn't leave any room for misunderstanding. When you tell someone, percent, I'm not the one for you to play with, you are clearly telling them that their attempt to disrespect you or provoke you will not succeed. 40%, you're not allowing them to push your buttons or provoke an emotional reaction. By remaining calm, percent, you demonstrate strength and control over your own emotions, and in turn, you take the power out of their hands. Percent, this is one of the most subtle yet effective ways to handle disrespect. Think about the impact of this line. When you say it, percent, you force the person to think about their behavior. 8%, they realize that they cannot continue to disrespect you without facing some kind of pushback. Percent, you're not threatening them or getting into a confrontation. Instead, percent, you're letting them know that their behavior will not go unchallenged. Percent, people who are disrespectful often rely on the fact that they can insult others and walk away unscathed. Percent, they assume their actions will have no real consequences, but when you say, percent, I'm not the one for you to play with, you take away that assumption. You make it clear that their actions have consequences, percent, and they should think twice before dishing out disrespect. The beauty of this phrase is that it's also a reminder to you, the one being disrespected, that you don't have to accept anything less than the respect you deserve. By saying this, you're sent. You remind yourself that you are in control of your own boundaries and self-respect. You are choosing not to engage with negativity, 40%, and you are sending a message that you will not let anyone make you feel inferior. This is a form of self-care and self-respect, and it empowers you to stand firm in your own value, regardless of how someone else tries to treat you. Another powerful aspect of saying, I'm not the one for you to play with, is that it creates a moment of reflection for the person who disrespected you. They might not have expected such a calm, straightforward response, and they may start questioning their own behavior. This moment of discomfort forces them to reconsider whether their actions were appropriate. The instant they realize that you won't tolerate their disrespect, they have to reflect on whether they want to continue pushing or back off. In most cases, they will back off, because they know they can't get away with treating you poorly without consequence. It's important to understand that this phrase is about taking back control of the situation. In the face of disrespect, it's easy to feel powerless, like your dignity is being attacked. But when you respond with this line, you are immediately putting the power back in your hands. You are showing that you will not be a victim to anyone's rude or disrespectful behavior. You are asserting that you will not allow anyone to make you feel small or inferior. When you say, I'm not the one for you to play with, you also demonstrate that you value yourself. You're not begging for respect or approval from others. You're simply stating that you expect it, and if they can't provide it, then you're not the person they should be engaging with. It's an empowering message for both you and the person dishing out the disrespect. In the end, this statement is about creating a boundary that cannot be crossed. It's a calm, firm reminder that you deserve respect and that anyone who crosses that line will have to deal with the consequences. It's a way to regain control without getting caught up in a confrontation. When you use this line, you're not just standing up for yourself in that moment, you're setting a precedent for how you expect to be treated going forward. You're making it clear that disrespect will never be tolerated. 40%, and that is a message that will resonate long after the conversation is over. When someone disrespects you, it's natural to want to immediately defend yourself or retaliate. But sometimes, the most effective response isn't to argue back or give them a piece of your mind. Instead, it's to simply walk away with the statement, I don't have time for this. This phrase works wonders because it's a direct and powerful way to show someone that their disrespectful behavior is not worth your energy or attention. In many cases, when a person disrespects you, it's their way of trying to provoke a reaction. They want to see how far they can push you, how much they can get under your skin. They thrive on the idea that their behavior will upset you, that you will engage with them in a way that makes you lose control. But when you say, I don't have time for this, you refuse to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. You deny them the emotional power they're seeking, and you instantly disengage from their negativity. This simple phrase communicates several key ideas at once. First, it signals to the disrespectful person that their actions are not important enough to warrant your time or attention. You're telling them that you're too busy, too focused on your own life, or too invested in more meaningful things to allow them to drag you into their petty behavior. You show them that your peace of mind, your time, and your emotional energy are far too valuable to waste on their rude remarks or disrespectful actions. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with negativity and distractions, Percent learning to walk away from people who try to drag us down is an essential skill. Saying, percent, I don't have time for this, is a powerful reminder that you are in control of how you spend your energy. Percent, you choose to focus on things that lift you up, that add value to your life, and that help you grow. Negative people, said, who aim to disrespect or provoke, have no place in that focus. By calmly walking away from their disrespect, percent, you send the message that you won't entertain negativity. Percent, what's incredible about this phrase is that it doesn't require you to get into a confrontation. There's no need for anger. Percent, no need to escalate the situation. You simply remove yourself from it. In many situations, percent, this lack of engagement is the best way to disarm someone who is trying to get a reaction from you. Percent, they may try to push harder or be even more disrespectful, but the moment you show that you're not interested in their nonsense, said, they will usually back off. When you say, percent, I don't have time for this, it also forces the disrespectful person to reflect on their actions. Percent, people who engage in rude behavior often do so because they don't expect a consequence. They think they can say or do whatever they want, percent, and there will be no fallout. But when you walk away, not only are you avoiding the confrontation, percent, but you're also making them realize that their actions don't hold the power they thought they did. By choosing not to engage, percent, you challenge their expectations and make them aware that their behavior has no place in your life. Percent, it's a reminder to them that they don't have the right to disrespect you without facing consequences. Percent, the beauty of walking away and saying this phrase is that it protects your peace. In every situation where disrespect is involved, percent, you're faced with a choice, react or walk away. Reacting gives your power to the other person. Walking away takes that power back. When you decide to leave the situation and simply say, percent, I don't have time for this, you are prioritizing your well-being over an exchange that will only drain you. Your cent, you prevent yourself from getting caught up in an emotional battle that will ultimately leave you feeling worse. Instead, you choose peace, cent. You choose control and you choose to move forward. There's also something immensely empowering about saying, percent, I don't have time for this. It's a reminder to yourself that your energy is precious and that you get to decide how you use it. Percent. In a world full of distractions, people and situations trying to pull us in different directions, percent, we often forget the importance of guarding our time and emotional space. By walking away from disrespect, percent, you are taking charge of your own life and showing that you won't let anyone waste your time or energy on negativity. Percent, one of the most powerful outcomes of using this phrase is the message it sends not just to the person who disrespects you, but to yourself. Percent, you're reminding yourself that your self-respect is non-negotiable. Percent, you are not here to engage with people who bring you down or try to diminish your value. You are here to thrive, percent. And part of that means setting boundaries and not allowing anyone to cross them. The more you say, percent, I don't have time for this, the more you reinforce the idea that your peace of mind is something you won't compromise. Percent, walking away may not always feel easy. Sometimes it can be tempting to argue back, to defend your honor, or to demand an apology. But by saying, percent, I don't have time for this, you're making the conscious choice to let go of any situation or person that threatens your peace. Percent, you remind yourself that you are in control and that you will not engage in things that don't add value to your life. Percent, this self-respect is one of the most effective ways to make a disrespectful person regret their actions. T%, they will realize that their attempts to provoke you were in vain and that their disrespect has cost them your time and attention. T%. In the end, saying, I don't have time for this, is about more than just removing yourself from a bad situation. Cent, it's about setting a standard for how you expect to be treated. You are telling the world that your time, energy, and emotions are far too valuable to waste on anything or anyone that doesn't uplift or respect you. By saying this, you take control, you protect your peace, and you send a clear message that disrespect has no place in your life.